To what extent should pilots continue to tolerate decisions that put their safety and their patients at risk? The illuminated streets of Las Vegas promised a vibrant night of speed, but instead, they delivered chaos, tension, and an ominous sense of déjà vu. It was not the first time that the city of entertainment put Formula One in check. What should have been a routine day of free practice became a critical episode that once again called into question the technical preparation of the FIA and the viability of this urban circuit. During the second free practice session on Thursday, November 21, 2025, just 20 minutes from closing, track activity was completely interrupted due to a red flag. The reason? The suspicion of a poorly secured manhole cover between curves 16 and 17 in the section that runs under the bridge of the urban layout. This single hint was enough to paralyze the event. The alarm was not unfounded. In fact, the fear did not arise from the present, but from the recent past. In 2023, exactly on this same circuit and with chillingly similar circumstances, Carlos Sainz had starred in one of the most embarrassing and dangerous episodes of the season. His Ferrari hit a manhole cover that came loose from the asphalt in the middle of FP1. The damage was brutal. The car's monocoque was rendered useless. The motor and battery completely destroyed. And as if that were not enough, the penalty came from the FIA, which forced Sainz to change components outside the regulations and relegated him 10 positions on the starting grid. The scandal of that 2023 edition provoked criticism from the entire international press, demands for answers from the teams, and deep discomfort among the drivers. It was logical then that 2 years later, any sign of structural failure would be treated as a major threat. And so it was. Given the new 2025 alert, Alpine was the first team to publicly confirm the reason for the interruption: a possible loose cover in turn 17. The FIA, this time determined not to repeat mistakes, ordered a complete and thorough inspection of the affected sector. The official message transmitted minutes later tried to calm things down, ensuring that all necessary measures had been taken to guarantee that the route was in a position to continue. But the calm was short-lived. 5 minutes after the session resumed, the red flag flew again. This time it wasn't a sewer, but Charles Leclerc. The Monegasque's Ferrari stopped suddenly after an apparent failure in the gearbox while passing through turn 5. The day was doomed. FP2 was cancelled with the cars in the pits and frustration in the air. The truly disturbing thing is that these types of incidents are not minor failures. They are cracks in the credibility of a championship that boasts of being the pinnacle of world motorsport. The physical integrity of the pilots cannot depend on whether a metal cover was properly sealed. Nor can a premiere or re-release circuit be allowed to have the same technical errors 2 years in a row without significant consequences. This block of Las Vegas wasn't just another bad day. It was a clear symptom that something deeper is failing. The technical reaction of the FIA, although prudent, was late. Prevention was conspicuous by its absence. And the worst thing, he explained again that when what is at stake is the spectacle, security can take a back seat until something explodes. And on this occasion, the patience of the pilots was what exploded. While the cars were stopped and the screens showed an impassive red flag sign, the silence that fell over the circuit was not just physical. It was informative. It was structural. And it was, above all, outrageous. Because while the FIA ordered track inspections, the rest of the world was left waiting for an explanation that never came. The frustration of the drivers and teams did not originate solely from the interruption of the session, which is part of the usual protocol in Formula One when there is a risk to safety, but from the way in which communication was managed during those minutes of uncertainty. No one in the paddock, not even the commentators in the booth, knew exactly what was happening. The race direction, headed by the FIA, remained silent, that baffled even the most veterans. In a sport where every second counts, where decisions are made in fractions of time and teams plan simulations with millimeter precision, not having clear and timely information can unleash chaos. And in Las Vegas he did. The engineers, without access to official reports, were forced to improvise. Let's guess, to assume. They communicated by radio the little they knew, while the pilots, sitting in their cars or walking through the paddock, waited for a signal from the control tower. But that signal never came. One of the most striking elements of this incident was how the public's frustration manifested itself on social networks. One Reddit user, present at the circuit, wrote, "It's really frustrating that race control hasn't provided any official updates. We shouldn't have to rely on teams' radio communications to understand what's going on." This testimony, replicated thousands of times, became the symbol of a widespread feeling. The FIA was not keeping its side of the deal. In a championship that invests millions in technology, logistics, global dissemination and security, The absence of a clear communication system with the public and the teams during a crisis is not just a logistical error. It is a structural failure. One that erodes trust in the authority that is supposed to guarantee the order and security of the show. And this is where the real background comes in, the disconnection between the FIA and the drivers. Because this lack of communication was not an isolated event. It came preceded by weeks of tension, of cross statements, of accumulated discomfort. The GPDA, the association that represents the pilots, had set off the alarm days before. And Las Vegas was just the perfect setting for everything to explode. This second block of the drama in Las Vegas reveals an uncomfortable truth for Formula One. It is not enough to have technical protocols if they are not accompanied by effective human and communicative management. The pilots are not parts of the show. They are professionals who risk their lives at every turn. Ignoring them, leaving them in the informational darkness, is not only disrespectful, it's a provocation. And as we will see in the next block, this provocation did not go unanswered. Because when the FIA decided to remain silent, the drivers decided to speak. And they did it with a forcefulness that had not been seen for years. The conflict between Formula One drivers and the FIA did not begin in Las Vegas, nor was it limited to the red flags of a chaotic practice. What happened that night was the boiling point of a pressure cooker that had been building tension for months. And that pressure finally broke out on November 6, 2025, with an open letter that marked a before and after in the relationship between the drivers and the governing body of world motorsport. The GPDA, the Grand Prix Drivers Association, surprised the paddock and the entire world with an unprecedented public statement since 2018. It was the first time in 7 years that the 20 drivers united under the same voice to openly question the FIA. And they did not do it with ambiguities. They did it with names, with dates, and with specific demands. The recipient of that letter was none other than Mohammed Ben Sulayem, president of the FIA. The tone of the statement was polite but firm. In it, the pilots not only asked to be heard, but also made direct accusations. Lack of transparency, arbitrariness in the application of sanctions, disrespectful language on the part of the president himself, and even suspicions about the destination of the money collected from fines. One of the most controversial points addressed in the letter was the FIA's recent campaign to sanction inappropriate language by drivers during official broadcasts. Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen were some of those penalized for expressing frustration after race situations. For many in the paddock, this represented a form of unnecessary censorship in a sport that lives precisely from the passion and emotion of its protagonists. The letter was signed by all the drivers on the grid, including important figures such as Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc, and especially George Russell, who as director of the GPDA, assumed the public spokesperson for the group. Russell was direct at the press conference prior to the Las Vegas GP. "I think we are fed up with this whole situation with the FIA. We haven't received any response since we published the letter. And that surprises me, to be honest." What is even more shocking is that Russell was not alone. Carlos Sainz, who had joined as co-director of the GPDA in early 2025, also supported the message. They both made it clear that this was not a passing tantrum. It was the result of years of internal conversations, broken promises, and a growing sense that pilots were not being taken seriously. Russell was forceful. "We have learned that when we talk in private, nothing happens. As drivers, we want the best for this sport. But we have been asking for changes for years and things remain the same. That is why this time we decided to make it public." The GPDA's open letter was a media bomb. Social media exploded. Media from around the world covered it as an unprecedented act of rebellion. And it was. Because for the first time in a long time, pilots stopped talking like employees and started talking like leaders. As guardians of the sport they love. As the only ones who know, from inside the helmet, what it means to risk everything every weekend. The most revealing thing about this entire episode is the deafening silence of the FIA. No official response. Not a clarifying statement. Not even a conciliatory message. The lack of reaction was interpreted by many as a sign of contempt. Or worse yet, institutional arrogance. Do you think the FIA has lost control of modern Formula One? Or are you on the side of those who think that drivers have become too sensitive to the demands of the sport? Leave me your opinion in the comments what you think about all this.